Maybe it's not just aging, maybe it's anemia. Trump signs new cryptocurrency law, and then a mid-year financial health checkup is essential. That and so much more on this week's episode of Elevate Your Wealth.
And now, Elevate Your Wealth with Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins.
Welcome into Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts, Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. You can find them right here in Seattle. Elevated Financial Management, over 42 years combined experience between these two. They are certified financial fiduciaries, helping their clients get ready for retirement. I'm Morgan Patrick. It's my pleasure to jump on and talk about the latest when it comes to retirement planning. And guys, before we dive in, I always ask, Casey, you're up first. How was the week?
Oh, it's been great. All exciting, right? The Mariners are doing well. We're excited about that.
Yeah.
We're not going to let Mark talk because no negativity today. Only positive thoughts, right? Only good vibes, as Gino would say. It's going really good there. Things are great around the office. We're just moving full steam ahead, and it's been really nice. We've had some wonderful couples in the office recently, some wonderful folks that we've been able to help. And again, right, for us, it's really, really rewarding to be able to have a positive impact on the people that we get to work with. So that's really exciting. And things are going good. What would you add to that, Mark?
I would just say, I just want to start out by thanking our listeners very, very much for the wonderful comments that we get, the clients that have come and joined our firm. And we mentioned last week we finalized a plan with an ex-Olympic gold medal winner in boxing from the 1976 Olympics. So again, some really cool things have been happening around the office. Was able to also enjoy a very nice dinner with Casey and Cammie and my wife Lori. We celebrated our anniversary at a very nice restaurant in Bellevue. So it's been a good week, and we're looking forward to this week. And again, we've got a bunch of appointments, so we're really looking forward to what's going to happen.
So how many years for you, Mark?
Go on.
We're going to make sure that we get a quick response, and then I'm going to share this with Lori so that she can see how quickly you remember.
It's 45.
Yeah, 45 years. That's awesome. Congratulations.
That is awesome. We certainly congratulate your wife.
Yeah, exactly. Casey and Cammie say that all the time.
I tell you,
Lori gets the endurance medal. Yeah,
that's it. And obviously, Mark, you hit a home run. Congratulations on the anniversary.
It's cool. Yeah, very exciting. And then we have anniversaries. Ours is 15. Yeah. So we're the same month, right? So we kind of always celebrate together. And that was really nice. We had a nice dinner, and it's fun to be able to share that with you guys. It's been really good.
Nice.
I'll tell you, it's great to hear, and also the fact that the company, Elevated Financial Management, continues to grow. We'll tell you about more of those type of news items coming up here shortly, but just exciting stuff. And what do they do for Seattle? What do they do for you? They help you get ready for retirement, and so much goes into it. Really need to have a plan. There's going to be an opportunity to get on their calendar. They have a limited number of spots, but these are cost-free, no-obligation appointments just to kind of see where you are. And here on this program, we dig in on the latest in retirement news. And guys, you brought these articles to the table today, and we're going to get into it first. Maybe it's not just aging. Maybe it's anemia. I found this incredibly interesting because it's an angle that a lot of people don't think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is, right? And I think, this is where maybe just to highlight why we brought this up, because maybe listeners are wondering, well, this doesn't really have to do with finances, that kind of thing. But it does have to do with retirement. And ultimately, the finances are there to support your retirement, right? So the goal is to try and make sure that you can go live the life you want to live. And so health comes down to that, right? The saying is health is wealth. That's absolutely the case. And so this article kind of struck a chord with us simply because we really are trying to be holistic and help people recognize what's going on. And so, we have a number of stories of clients that we have set plans up for that have fallen ill, right, after a few years in retirement or maybe even before they retired. And don't get me wrong, we have lots of folks that, of course, have, lived many, many years healthily in retirement too. But things do happen. And I think that's really, before we get into the article itself, I think that's really what drew the attention to this, is that, we put plans together. We want to make the finances fit your life, not make your life fit your finances. And so health is a piece of that. And it's something that oftentimes we feel gets missed when people move into retirement. They're not paying attention to their health at a time when they probably need to be paying attention to it more than ever. And so this was a really interesting article. I'll just say it this, or I'll read this first piece here. The individual in the article said he felt weary all the time. He said, I'd get tired, short of breath, a sort of malaise. He says, I was even cold on warm days and looked pale with dark circles under his eyes. And so ultimately he was anemic, and there's a lot more details that we'll get into for this. But, if you're feeling that way, don't just chalk it up to age. Go see the doctor, right? Take the time. You are retired, right? So ultimately you should have the time to do it, but take the time, go get it checked out to make sure, because of course you want to enjoy your life. Your loved ones want you to be around. And ultimately it may not necessarily be that it's a life-threatening thing, but it could be quality of life, right? It's great to have a 30-year retirement, but if 20 of those years are not spent enjoyably, well, then that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So maybe there's something that could be done just to improve your quality of life.
Yeah, in fact, that's what this article talked about. This individual searched for 15 years, and he was feeling pretty bad a lot of this time. And this is what I thought was amazing about it. He was told to take iron, that would help, but that has its own side effects, as some of us know that have ever taken iron, right? But this is what I think is important. So if you're feeling any of these symptoms, it talked about tiredness, headaches, leg cramps, coldness, decreased ability to exercise, brain fog, could all be forms of anemia. And what was amazing is when he got these heavy infusions of iron, it changed his life. He got his energy back. He was able to then, operate like I know that he wanted to, and we all want to, right? But it took 15 years before he found a hematologist instead of his doctors that just kept, I don't want to say pawning him off, but using the easy excuse, go take this drug or that drug. But you really, if you know your body, right, better than anybody else does, and if you feel like you're not getting the answers you need, don't stop or give up, because this was such a good article of somebody that made it a success because he wouldn't give up until he found an answer.
Yeah, and it's, I appreciate you saying that, Mark. You and I both have spouses that have some health struggles. And I will say this, having an advocate that can fight for you, especially when you don't feel well, right? I think that's the biggest thing. When you don't feel well, it can be depressing. It can make it a struggle when you go to the doctor's appointment to be able to articulate what's going on, and maybe you're tired, all those kinds of things. But if you have someone, probably your spouse or even just a close friend, that's willing to go with you, that's willing to try and help explain what's going on and have that conversation, if you feel comfortable with that, that can really help a lot, because sometimes that second party sees things differently, sees things that maybe you don't notice, right? Maybe just things that you feel like you've become accustomed to, and that's just part of life. And that's actually kind of here in this article. Quote says, people say, and this is the quote, I feel weak, but everybody my age feels weak. Well, that's not necessarily true, right? That isn't necessarily true. And of course, it depends on your age and your individual circumstance. But, we're really just trying to encourage people to try and have the highest quality of life that you can. And that requires regular doctor visits, right? That requires keeping up on your health. You want to make sure your financial health is heading down the right track. Sure. But if your physical health isn't going down the right track, that's its own problem, right? And so we just want to make sure that people are aware and are taking this to heart to make sure that they can have a successful retirement.
Yeah, I think part of this too, it talks about iron tablets that you can get. They're inexpensive, and the intravenous way to go is more expensive. But I love what she said. This woman, she gets an iron infusion now every 5 or 6 weeks, and she said it's made a startling difference in her life. She's now going back to her water aerobics classes 4 days a week. She had given up kind of doing that because she was feeling tired all the time. So this was a game changer for her, and that's what I think is so vitally important. So if you're listening today and maybe you're thinking, that maybe your health isn't right, hopefully this will motivate you to maybe go talk to the doctor or even get a second opinion, right? But back to the financial part of this, For those of you that may have saved $250,000 or more, maybe you're getting ready to retire from Boeing or any of our other great companies, let's pick up the phone. Let us have a conversation. Keep your checkbook at home. All we want to do is help. And we promise we just want a conversation. We're going to talk about taxes. We'll talk about Social Security. We're going to talk about what's the best way to pass money on to your children. So please pick up the phone, give us a call, and let us help.
I mean, this is your opportunity. We've got the appointments. Again, if you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. And these are no cost, no obligation appointments, meaning there's not a price tag. You're leaving the checkbook at home. And you're not agreeing to become a client if you can grab one of these appointments. It's a great way to test drive Elevated Financial Management. You get to meet Mark, Casey, the entire team, and see how you're doing with your retirement planning. Now, we also know there are a lot of you out there that are sitting on portfolios. Maybe you're intimidated. The problem is just come into the office, have the conversation, and that's what it is. Find that comfort level. Call this number, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. It's a complimentary appointment. It awaits you right now. You're leaving that checkbook at home. 866-668-3625. When we return, more articles, and the next one up, Trump signs new stablecoin law. We'll get into that when we return. We are back on Elevate Your Wealth, powered by Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. Your hosts, Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. That's exactly where you can find them. 42 plus years combined experience in this retirement planning business, helping hundreds of their clients get ready for that retirement. They're certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick. It's a pleasure to jump on, and here we get the latest, the hottest retirement news and things that can impact you as you make your way to retirement and through retirement. And we hit the articles. And the next one, guys, that you bring up is Trump signs the new stablecoin law. Obviously, this is headlines, and you guys want to talk about it.
Yeah, this is something that really is going to change the way the financial world does a lot of different transactions, right? And now that it's been signed into law, cryptocurrency has always been a thing that a lot of people don't understand. I will say that I don't fully understand it. Casey has a better grip on this than I do. I've got a little crypto myself, Casey does, but we don't recommend this for our clients, right? Because we're not saying that you can. If you really want to study crypto and learn about it, might be something to add a little bit to your portfolio, but it's very risky. And right now, though, this is going to change things. In fact, this article doesn't talk about it, but PNC Bank just last week signed a deal where they are now have formed an agreement with Coinbase, which is one of the largest crypto firms where you can hold crypto, and so this deal is going to just propel, just like this law has done, crypto into the real world. It's going to be something that is going to be used more and more, and I think it's something that we want to begin to understand. Don't feel like, I'm going to stay away from crypto because, it could be a way that is going to be used more and more. So the more you learn about it, the more apt you're going to be to want to embrace it and use it. I know we're excited about it to a certain degree, and so I know, Casey, you've got more to say on this, but crypto is becoming more and more mainstream, and it's going to over the next several years.
It is, yeah, and I think it's something. There was a lot of crypto naysayers, and those have kind of gone by the wayside, right? And I think what's really important here is that it is becoming not only more and more mainstream, but more and more accessible in a lot of ways, right? There's crypto ETFs, a lot of them are pending, but those crypto ETFs are a way to be involved with crypto in the quote unquote normal stock market, right? That doesn't mean that those assets are still not volatile. They absolutely are. They're very volatile, right? And really may not be the right place for a retirement portfolio. If it was something that you're interested in for your retirement portfolio, we would say it'd be a very small piece because of the volatility. Mm-hmm. But as time continues on, we're talking about stable coins. So if you're kind of unfamiliar with what a stable coin is, the idea there is that the cryptocurrency, the underlying cryptocurrency, is pegged to the same value of a dollar. So one coin in that setting is the same as $1. And so it's a way to be able to take digital payments over a crypto network that still match regular US dollar values, right? So what it really is it's a move towards a completely digital currency. I think that that's really why we bring this up, because that's the direction that things are going. Good, bad, or indifferent, right? There's lots of varying opinions here, and we're not really here to get into any political thoughts behind it or anything. We are simply saying that we think that's the direction that this is going, and we don't want you to be left behind, right? So it'd be a good idea to start asking those questions to your advisor, to start looking online to see what you can learn, and start figuring out how that potentially might affect you in the future. It's the same kind of thing that, once upon a time, everything was done with cash. And then there was the introduction of checks, right? And everybody wrote checks, right? That was the next go-to move. You wrote a check, and how convenient was that? Oh, I don't have to deal with the change and all these things, right? Then from there, it was into actually what is really a digital form of payment, which is a credit card. There's something physical you hold in your hand. But realistically, that's a digital form of payment. And now we're away from credit cards, and we use our phone or our watch, right? I mean, I can go to the grocery store and just tap my watch and pay for something. And so, we're moving towards this digital front. And if they do decide to go to crypto-backed assets for the reserve and all these things, it's something to be aware of that it will have an impact for you. The other thing that's coming too, and this isn't necessarily in this article, but just something to be aware of, is that they are talking about tokenizing assets that are in the stock market. So taking stocks in the overall stock exchange and tokenizing them on crypto networks so that you can actually buy stock assets through a crypto network. So there's a lot happening here, and we do have a pro-crypto president and legislation that is pushing that way, right? So it's something to be aware of. Don't stick your head in the sand and say it's not going to happen, because it is happening right now.
Well, think about the U.S. dollar was backed by gold for so long, right? That's no longer the case. But I love what it says, that this new law requires stable coins to be backed by liquid assets, such as the dollar or short-term treasury bills, right? And then they're going to have to be willing to disclose publicly the composition of their reserves each and every month. So there's some checks and balances, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. And Trump is wanting to see that, because I think you're right, he's making some money on this himself, but it's also, I think, the wave of the future. Just like why don't we back our money now by gold? We know why, right? And so again, it's just technology is changing everything, and it always has, and it always will continue, right? Why don't we use a typewriter anymore? We got a keyboard, right? And stablecoin, when it's used the right way, is going to be a really powerful and very cost-effective way to move money, to make payments. Maybe we need to transfer money. It's going to be a really fast way to do it. They just have to make sure it's safe.
That's it, right? And I think that's it. There's a lot of speed behind it. It's much quicker to move assets. There's also a very clear ledger of how those assets have been moved. And cryptocurrency, I can appreciate that there's a level of the boogeyman there, right? And we talk about the boogeyman on the show, right? Sometimes you need to open the closet and see if the boogeyman's really there. And I think what we're getting at is that this all comes down to education. And the more you understand it and the more you have conversations about it, the less scary it will be. Right. Because the last thing that you want is to be into retirement 10 or 15 years and we switch to an all digital world and you are unsure of how to access that on your phone or your computer, and suddenly you're kind of feeling left behind, right? And things are moving quicker now than they ever have before. So take the time, have the conversation. Ask your nephew, ask your grandson, your granddaughter. Ask them. They probably know more about it than I do, right? So it's just something that's worth taking the time to figure out, because it won't be as scary if you do take the time.
I think you guys drew almost a perfect picture, because when you think about it, we've all been through technology changes. And it's not the easiest of things, but we've made those changes. I love the checkbook analogy. That's fantastic, because who writes a check anymore? Very few people. You have to adapt to survive. And educating yourself on digital currency, that is a natural next step. We're not saying dive in. We're not saying invest heavy. But educate, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's it too, right? Because even in the stock market, I think a lot of people invest blindly into stocks and ETFs and mutual funds. They don't really understand what's there. They just know, okay, well, it grows. And you feel like you have an understanding because you've heard of NVIDIA on the news before. So you feel like you have an understanding of what it is. But, who's heard of Ethereum before Ethereum existed, right? Nobody heard of that. What's this crazy thing? What's this crazy Bitcoin thing, right? And so ultimately it does come down to educating yourself. That'll help you feel comfortable. And I appreciate what you said, Morgan. It's not, we're not the crypto guys. That's not what we're getting at here, right? We're not saying go invest your retirement funds in crypto. That's not the point, but it really is to just be educated. If you want to have crypto as part of your portfolio, maybe it has a place. A very small place would be our recommendation. Money that you're comfortable with taking high risk and being okay with the volatility associated and potentially losing those funds. So, this is an opportunity here. If you want to continue to be educated about retirement, you want to talk about Social Security, Medicare, income planning, investment management, long-term care, all those kind of questions that you probably have swirling around in your mind as you're approaching retirement, how you're going to deal with these different things that are coming up. This is your opportunity to get on our calendar. We will sit down, Mark, myself, the rest of our team, and we will have a conversation about what you're trying to accomplish, what your goals are in retirement, when you want to retire. And we will start from an analysis perspective and from an education point to help make the best recommendations that we can to send you down the right path. So if you've saved $250,000 or more, don't hesitate. It's completely complimentary. And what you get here on the radio is exactly what you get when you come into the office. Don't hesitate. Pick up the phone and give us a call.
It's about your retirement, folks. Get started right now. You can call this number, 866-668-3625. Complimentary appointment awaits. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. But this is your opportunity to get off that procrastination's couch and get moving on planning or maybe a second opinion. 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. When we return on Elevate Your Wealth, a mid-year financial health checkup is essential for high net worth investors. You don't want to miss it. Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts, Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. You can find them right here in Seattle. Elevated Financial Management. Over 42 years combined experience between these two. They are certified financial fiduciaries helping hundreds of their clients get ready for the big day and beyond. That's retirement and your overall retirement. Make sure you have a plan. I'm Morgan Patrick. We hit the latest and the greatest articles, things that will get you thinking about, the overall retirement picture. This next one, guys, I love this one. A mid-year financial health checkup is essential for high net worth investors. I don't even have to ask why you picked this one. This is important.
Yeah, and this is something that I even though it's entitled High Net Worth Investors, you don't have to be high net worth to be doing this, right? I think this is really important. I love this short sentence or short paragraph says, I encourage clients to pause, revisit their goals, and ensure each component of their strategy is working together. Whether it's cash flow, retirement funding, or estate planning, it's essential to be intentional and proactive because, I just had a client lose his wife kind of very unexpectedly. She'd been sick a while, but it threw him into crisis mode. And when we get into crisis mode, we tend to make decisions sometimes that can be very, very emotional. And if we have these type of checkups and we make sure that we have all our planning documents, our health directives, our, trusts if we need a trust or a will, whatever. We could go on and on about why we need to be proactive, making sure that we understand if we've got a spouse, does he or she know where everything is at?
That's a big one.
right? I've had clients where they brought in a shoebox with stuff in it, and we're trying to figure out exactly what they had. So again, I'm a big believer in this. I know you are too, Casey, that we need to review on a fairly regular basis and make sure that we're just on track, making sure that somebody can hold us accountable a little bit. That's what's also awesome about this too, is it's a way for us, it's a way for husband and wife, maybe children that are helping their parents, maybe they've slowed down. It's a way to make sure that everybody's on the same page and we're not making decisions when it does become crunch time.
Yeah, there's kind of two thoughts that come to mind with this, and I appreciate what you said, Mark. Cammie and I were actually talking about this last night. Being that what you and I do for work is, we manage finances, right? We manage assets. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we have accounts kind of in a lot of different places. I know I do. I know that you do. And we see clients come in like that all the time that sometimes have 10 or 12 or 15 different accounts. And generally speaking, there is one spouse that leads the charge in terms of finances. Does the other spouse know where all the dollars are at? Does the other spouse know how to access those dollars if something happens to you? Maybe it's not that you pass away. What if you're just incapacitated? Do they have the ability to access those accounts if you are still around but just unable to speak for yourself? That's a really tough thing to get past, right? If somebody has passed away, you can provide a death certificate and all those kinds of things. But if somebody's incapacitated, that's kind of a separate problem, right? And so these are things that we have to account for. And even Mark, myself, any other financial advisor in our industry has to have these types of things in play. And how much more important for you as an individual looking at your retirement and your planning, do you have those things set up? You also hit on something else, Mark, that I think this is really what is so important as far as a checkup goes. We make these decisions. I've used this analogy before. When you're planning and you make a decision about one thing, it's like dropping a rock in a pond. That has a ripple effect on all the other decisions that you have to make, right? So we really can't make decisions in a silo or in a vacuum. It has to be a collective picture. But we had somebody in the office last week, and of course we don't share names, but she was pretty high up at HP, and really fantastic job, younger woman, very lively personality. We loved having her here. And she shared something with us that ultimately she got sick at a younger age, and was smart enough. This is the key. She was in her 30s, but she was smart enough to recognize that she should get disability insurance for herself because she wasn't sure if this was going to come back to bite her in the future. Now she is 55. She's been paying on disability insurance for close to 20 years. And it's a great thing that she did because that small amount that she paid each month is going to pay her a rather sizable amount monthly until she gets to her full retirement age for Social Security. And she saved really well in the meantime. If she had not done that, she would not have the assets to be able to leave her work, which she can no longer do. That's the thing. It's not by choice, really. It sounds like she really enjoys her job. She'd prefer to stay, but she can't do that work anymore. And she's moving down this disability path. And so it's little decisions like that can really have a massive positive impact for you. But it comes down to these type of check-ins that we're talking about. Am I on the right path? Do I have somebody I can trust to ask these questions to that can help guide me, that can show me the blind spots that I might have that I don't realize that I have, right? That's really what it is. Can somebody help me figure this out? And so we got to make sure that you're heading down that right path and that you have those regular check-ins to do it.
In fact, this case that Casey was just talking about was a referral to, heard the radio show and a referral from a longtime client of mine. And the interesting thing, like Casey mentioned, her income is going to be, it's big because of her disability. But she also knows that right at the 10-year mark, that is going to be ending. So her whole concern was, how can I replace the income that she's losing due to the disability? Because she knows she's going to be 10 years older, need that it's hard to reduce income, right? If we've been used to living on, let's say, $15,000 a month, and now we're going to go down to $7,000, that's going to be an issue, right? And that was her main concern. So she's already being proactive because she knows how much and how effective it's been that she did this planning, because it's been a game changer for her financially because she thought about this stuff. And it is something she's doing now because she's going to have a plan set up where her income is going to continue once she goes off long-term disability.
I think it's easy for our listeners, if they tune in, and we talk retirement, we talk finances almost every single week, and we get fixated on it to the point where, people just think that retirement planning is about stuffing your accounts. But what you're saying today, guys, is that the review, the revisit, the relationship with your advisor on an ongoing basis. This isn't a one and done. If they show up at your office and you set them up with a plan and you say, see ya, that doesn't happen.
No, and that's a really good point. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up, Morgan, because one of the things that we're doing with a lot of our clients right now is helping to put idle cash to work, that people are like, where could I put savings? We want our clients to have anywhere from 6 to 12 months liquidity all the time. We call that our yellow bucket, right? And how can they, if they've been with a certain bank that may be crediting, not even 0.5%, there's some liquid accounts where they could be, now getting, 3.5%, maybe 4%, depending on the bank. So again, we're trying to help our clients. You don't want to let any money just sit there and not be giving you some kind of a return. It's not always going to be the highest, but I'll take 3% over almost 0% all day long, right? So that matters.
It does, yeah. And we talk about being intentional with what we're doing, right? And all too often we see people just kind of saving bulk assets, right? I'm just building a retirement account. That's great, right? That is something that needs to be done. But when we go to deploy those funds for retirement, we need to be intentional with how we position the dollars. Not every dollar is invested the same way. Not every dollar is designed to do the same thing. Some dollars are meant for income. Some are meant for growth. Some are meant for liquidity, right? We have different things we can ask our money to do. And so I really appreciated, the article says this. It says, it's essential to be intentional. And that really is the case. If you're not having these checkups, not only with your advisor, but even just with yourself, right? Have your goals changed, right? Has your cash flow changed? Are you paying attention to your budget? And here's the deal. If you have a great income, like Mark, you mentioned $15,000 a month, that's a wonderful income, right? Maybe you got more, maybe you got 20 or 25,000, whatever that is. If you have this great income, oftentimes that thought of a budget flies out the window, right? People don't live on a budget. Even people that, make $3,000-$4,000 a month oftentimes don't really live on a budget. They just know, as long as I spend less than I bring in, I'm okay. But ultimately, that budgetary piece is still really important, because am I doing the best that I can to head down the path that I want to be on, right? And there's always tomorrow, right? That's always the idea, is like kind of kick the can down the road and I'll deal with it later. And right now we're doing X, Y, and Z. There's always an excuse, but it comes back to the saying, we've all heard it 1,000 times, pay yourself first. Be intentional with what you're doing. Don't just save what's left over. Save before you spend, right? If you save and pay yourself first, then you can make sure that you're heading down the path that you want to be on. But it takes effort, it takes time, it takes planning and constant check-ins, right? It is not a set it and forget it. This isn't a George Foreman grill, right? We don't set it and forget it and walk away. You got to make sure that you're keeping up with it.
I just want to end this with talking about estate planning a little bit. What about your beneficiary designation and how you've titled your accounts? This is big. A lot of people don't know there's things they can do there. We need to have their health and their financial powers of attorney in place. There can be transfer on death or POD set up at the bank so that you don't have probate to worry about there. And then digital assets. I want to be sure if you use crypto, you don't want to lose your password because you won't be able to get in and find your money. So if you're listening and any of these things that we've talked about today are important to you, please pick up the phone, give us a call. We're just going to have a conversation. If you've saved at least $250,000 or more, give us a call. Let us talk about estate planning with you. Let us talk about taxes, Social Security, any of these things that are on your mind and that you're wondering about, or they're complicated, feel free to pick up the phone and give us a call, because we're just going to have a conversation and want to set you on a retirement path that you're going to be happy about.
All right, we've got the 10 appointments, and you can get into our top 10 simply by calling 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Again, this is a check-in on your retirement, your finances. How are you doing? 866-668-3625. There's no cost to this. There's no obligation, meaning you're not agreeing to become a client. This is a test drive. Call now, 866-668-3625. When we get back, we are going to get into retirement scenarios. I'll throw them at the fellas. We'll see what they come up with. That's next. Welcome back into Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts are Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. You can find them right here in Seattle, Elevated Financial Management. Check out the website. It's a resource, efmnw.com. That's all letters, efmnw.com. Again, links to the TV show, radio shows, and podcast form. Really good information on retirement. And again, Mark and Casey, 42 combined years of experience in the retirement planning business, helping their clients get ready for the big day and beyond. Of course, that is retirement planning. They are certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick. We have gotten through some really good articles today, and now we are into our scenarios. And these happen all over the country. We've gathered a handful of them. We'll see what the guys would do. Mark, you're up first. You'll start with this. They never bought long-term care insurance, and they're now in their late 60s, wondering how to prepare if one of them needs assisted living or memory care. What options do retirees have to plan for long-term care costs if they didn't buy coverage early on?
Yeah, and one of the things I want to say to this question is now they're in their late 60s. I don't want you to think just because you're in the late 60s that insurance is out of the question.
Right.
We would tell you the exact opposite. It's about what is the best way, the most efficient way to take care of this problem, right? The biggest problem is if you've waited and you've got health issues now. Now you've got a problem, because now you can just not even talk about it because it's not going to happen, right? But I will say this, that there's basically three ways to pay for long-term care. A lot of our clients and a lot of you listening out there right now are doing exactly this. You're self-insuring. You don't want to pay the premium. You think it's too expensive. And then I just look at that person if I hear that. Expensive compared to what? Right now, we easily could be anywhere to $15,000 to $20,000 a month, for full-blown memory care in our area. So if you think a premium of $8,000 a year is expensive, well, what is going to be $15,000 a month?
Right.
Right. It'll look like peanuts. So you can self-insure. You can hopefully be healthy enough to be able to buy some form of hybrid life insurance policy, which we really like, or a standalone plan. So that's insurance is that second option. And then the third option is the option that most of us don't ever want to think about, and that would be we run out of money basically and we go on Medicaid. Those are your options. Those are the three options out there. You might be fortunate enough that your kids are going to take care of you. Well, I know with my three children, I don't want them to have to take care of me. It's something I'm not looking forward to having them do. So, and they're not going to, they're just going to say, forget it, I'm not doing it anyway. So
They are not.
The bottom line is, we just don't want to do that to our children either. Some of them, they have their lives. They're trying to live the best they can. They've got pressures and stresses just like we do. So again, long-term care planning is a big deal. And I watched this happen in my own family with my grandfather on my dad's side that got Alzheimer's, and they lost almost all of their liquid assets due to him going into a facility, but he didn't do that till he was in his early 90s and lived another 6, almost 7 years. So this is very real to me, and it needs to be real to all you out there listening, because if this happens, even if you've done some great planning, it's just going to blow that plan to smithereens.
It will, yeah. And you know what? I appreciate what you said. It's not too late. People think it's too late, right? Well, I'm not 55, so it won't be cost effective. That's not the case, right? That is not the case. We have helped a lot of folks that are in their mid to late 60s get long-term care set up, and it was very cost effective. It was a much better option than self-insuring. And as Mark said, right, there's only a couple ways that you can really take care of this. You can self-insure, which is what most people are doing. You can get some kind of plan in place. Or if you don't do that, the state has a plan for you. Yeah. And I promise you won't like it. It's called Medicaid, and it's not an ideal circumstance. It really isn't. So, this is something that, again, with a little bit of planning, you can find out what the options are. Yeah. And they may not be as attractive as they would have been had you set it up when you were 50 or 55. Sure, that's the case. Absolutely, right? But that doesn't mean that they're still not better than what you're currently doing. Yeah. Whereas, if you take a chunk of assets and position that the right way, that might be worth double what you put in or triple what you put in terms of long-term care. And that's a much more efficient use of the money. So it's worth having the conversation, and it's something that can be built into a retirement plan. But there are some nuances to it. It still has to go through underwriting. You still have to be medically able to qualify. And of course, you have to be able to afford it, right? But, again, all things that can be part of a retirement plan. And I'll say this. If you have a retirement plan, and I'm doing that in air quotes, if you have a retirement plan that you received from somebody that did not talk about long-term care with you, I'm curious, do you actually have a retirement plan? I would say you probably don't, right? You should at least have the conversation. And if you don't qualify, you can't afford it, whatever, then that's fine. But do you really have a retirement plan if you haven't checked all the boxes? It's something worth considering.
Well, we say it all the time, guys. Planning is being proactive, and that's part of it. When you start talking about healthcare and long-term care, just having the conversation is a good first step of being proactive.
Absolutely. It is. Yeah, that is a big piece to it, is to just have the conversation. There's no obligation with that conversation, right? It's really an opportunity for you to figure out if it's going to work for you and what can be done. And really, is there something that firm, this is how we approach it anyways, is there something that we can do to help? I would say for most people, yes, but that's not always the case. Sometimes people come in, they've got a great plan, and there's not a lot that we can do to help them. That's pretty rare, but ultimately it's about having the conversation to figure out if it's the right fit for you.
Yeah, you always say it, guys. It starts with the conversation. You can have that conversation by grabbing one of our complimentary appointments by calling 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. But these are complimentary appointments. There's no obligation. It's about that conversation. Call now, 866-668-3625. All right, next up, Casey, start off on this one. They've noticed market volatility feels a lot scarier now that they are retired and no longer earning. Now, their portfolio is still 60% stock. So how often should someone reevaluate their risk tolerance in retirement, and how do they strike a balance between growth and that good old peace of mind?
I really appreciate that piece that you mentioned. I think the way you said it, Morgan, was that volatility feels a lot scarier now. That's a really, really good way to put that, because, maybe when you were 40 and you had 20 years before you retired, that volatility wasn't really scary, right? It wasn't too big a deal. Not that you enjoyed it per se, but it wasn't as big a deal as it is now when you're getting closer to retirement. And obviously that's because something is changing, right? Something is going to be different. And so you now have to rely on what you've saved to be able to provide for you for the rest of your life. And so how do you strike that proper balance? And you know what? This is something that Mark and I and the rest of our team address every single day with every single client that we have and every person that walks through our door, because that is ultimately how you negate the fear of running out of income in retirement. What's the biggest concern that every retiree has on every Gallup poll, on every study that's done? It comes down to running out of money in retirement. And so if we don't position the assets the right way, what happens is people live a less than retirement, right? So they will find a way to pare their life down just to the income that they have. They might have $4 million in a retirement account, but if they've got $5,000 a month coming in, they will find a way to live on $5,000 a month, and they will not touch that $4 million because it's this unknown number of how many years that money will last. And so we have got to find a way to turn that money that you worked so hard to save, to turn it into reliable, lasting income, and make sure that that money is not taking risk that you cannot afford to take. And that's ultimately what a retirement plan comes down to. So how often should you reevaluate? You know what? I'll say this. If you do not currently have a retirement plan that accounts for creating income, taxes, inflation, long-term care, Medicare, all the things that we discuss each and every week on the show, now is the time to reevaluate. You have got to reevaluate where you're at right at this very moment. And we'll get to that. There's an opportunity for you to do that today. In addition to that, if you are already in retirement and you have questions about your plan, it is time to reevaluate. Call your advisor. Get a second opinion. This is the time to do it. On top of that, we should be doing 6-month reviews, at least to consider what track you're on, what path you're on. The market's more volatile now than it ever has been before, right? So as market volatility increases, do we shift how you're currently invested to make sure that things are heading down the right path? Is it still comfortable? Is it still appropriate? Those are all questions that need to be asked. And then how do you get that right balance between growth and peace of mind? And you know what? I'll say that's really the crux of the whole thing, right? How do we position the dollars the right way? I think I said it earlier on today's show. We've said it before. There's 3 things we can ask our money to do. We can ask our money to create liquidity, we can ask our money to create income, and we can ask our money to create growth. How do we figure out which dollars go in which of those 3 buckets? It all comes down to your life. Do you have a pension? Do you have a great Social Security? Do you not maybe need as much income in retirement because you have this great pension? Or maybe you only have Social Security. That's where most folks are at. And if that's all they have, well, then we probably need to allocate more money towards creating income. And we're going to put the growth mindset on the back burner because the income is always going to take precedent to make sure that you can live the life that you want to live. I know you want to add a couple
I
things
just wanted to
that too,
say
Mark.
something really quick. Is there's 3 phases to our financial life. We've got the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years, right? We want our clients to have more money on the front end when they can do things with it, right? Not that we don't want to leave money to our children, but let's help our clients to create memories now for their children because it's now that matters when your health is good.
That's exactly right. So this is the opportunity. If you're listening to the show, you've got questions about what type of risk you should take or what type of risk you can take, how to create income in retirement, what you're going to do for long-term care, how to time Social Security, what you're going to do for Medicare. This is your opportunity to get all that sorted. It's complimentary, no obligation. We're happy to have the conversation. Don't hesitate. Pick up the phone. Give us a call now.
We have 10 appointments. Again, there's no cost to this. You're leaving the checkbook at home. No obligation, meaning you're not agreeing to become a client. This is a great way to test drive Elevated Financial Management. Call now, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. Again, if you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. This is a complimentary appointment. It awaits. Call the number, 866-668-3625. Another edition of Elevate Your Wealth is in the books, powered by Elevated Financial Management. For Mark and Casey, I'm Morgan. We'll see you on the radio next week.
Investment advisory services offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. All rights reserved.